The Outlanders Journey. Tier 1, Level 0. Chapter 10. Bach. You had a bad day today. Every other day is a good day, but today was bad. Before leaving for work, Mr. Senos got very angry at you for failing to improve after all your training. He left you bruised and bleeding, cowering in the corner and begging him to stop hurting you. To alleviate the pain, he shoved a bitter-tasting drink down your throat, and it burned in your stomach. You should have known better than to perform so poorly when he was in a sour mood. You could tell by the crinkle in his eyes, the crease on his brow, and still, you couldn't please him. For him to display this sort of fury, you can only sit in the darkness wondering why you're so incompetent. After slamming your door shut, he opened another one nearby, and you heard the sound of a young girl screaming. Mr. Senos started shouting again, and the girl kept crying for help. Then, it was quiet. You could feel the quaking of his heavy boots storming up the stairs, and then he was gone. Whenever Mr. Senos leaves, he takes all the sounds with him, and you are left alone with only your wild imagination. Sometimes you think you can hear things, Papa's whistling, Mama's lullaby, grazing bison, and the ambient sounds of the forest lulling you to sleep. You couldn't determine why Mr. Senos was so upset today, or how to appease him. Yesterday he was very proud of you because you were learning so fast. He said you were very gifted and that you would make Mama very grateful, so grateful that she would come to pick you up and bring you home. How did things take such a horrible turn, so quickly? Not long ago, while sitting in this very corner, you began to sense the tiniest of vibrations on the other side, as though someone is scratching and tapping at the walls. You would press your hands against the wall and feel the rhythmic tremors. "Is someone there?" you would ask, knowing no one could hear you. Perhaps this is also a figment of your imagination. Mr. Senos would always chide you for coming up with such crazy ideas. Your arms ache and your stomach is on fire. Mr. Senos left before giving you something to eat, and now you're very hungry. You miss Mama's magic berries. They are still your favorite food. When you get hungry like this, you sleep. Normally you sleep in your bed, but you've been liking the vibrations, the constancy, the sense of another person, like a new friend. As the hours pass, you lean your head against the wall, soothed by the tapping and scratching. You silently hum your favorite lullaby. Your eyelids grow heavy, and as you hold your wounded arm, you drift off to sleep. When will Mr. Senos be back with food? Will he still be mad? You prepare your apology and a promise to do better. Something sharp and pointed pokes you in the knee, jolting you awake. You look down to see a stick protruding through the wall. There is dust all over your legs, as well as a tiny hole near the ground. You scream. You scramble to your bed and crawl under your blanket. You really are going crazy. A finger pokes through, wiggling around. You scream again. Fog seeps through the opening, billowing up to the ceiling. A flash, and then a little elf girl appears out of thin air. She looks to be wearing nothing but rags. She has long, disheveled brown hair. Dirt and scrapes cover her arms and legs, down to her bare feet. She glances around and squints as if blinded by the tiny amount of candlelight in your room. A smile creeps on her face and she puts her hands over her stomach, pulling her head back as though she is laughing uncontrollably. Her mouth says something that looks like, "Yes!" and then she puts her arms up and starts dancing. She's cute. A little girl manifesting out of nowhere. You may very well have gone crazy, but it's a fun distraction if nothing else. You can't help but start laughing as well from the sheer absurdity of it all. Your rickety bed shakes with your movement. She spins around, still dancing, until she notices you hidden in the covers. Her eyes go wide, and her mouth opens to what looks like a scream. She collapses onto her backside, trembling. She backs up to the wall, holding her arms up defensively. You throw off your blanket. You haven't seen anybody else besides Mr. Senos in such a long time. He has told you before that nobody else lives in this house, and yet here she is, so seemingly real that it cannot just be a trick of your mind, right? Maybe she's a ghost. You climb out of your bed, and as you rise to your feet, she screams again, tears now running down her cheeks. Standing upright, you realize how tiny she is. You've always been told to keep yourself small unless you are doing your combat training. You crouch low to the ground. "You are terrifying to behold, Buck," Mr. Sanos would always say. "No one will want to look at you. They'll either run away or try to kill you." You crouch down, slouching your shoulders. You sit next to your bed and wave at her, smiling. That should be safe, right? Waving and smiling? No one will get hurt from that. The girl puts her arms down and closes her mouth. She blinks at you and then tilts her head. Then her eyes go wide again, this time with a sense of recognition. She scuttles up to you on all fours with quick, jagged steps, like a spider. She mouths something. "What?" You put a hand to your ear. She looks around, as though trying to figure out a way to communicate. "Are you real?" you mouth. "What?" You understand her. You can read her lips. This pure, unbridled joy bubbles up from your chest. This is the first time you've talked to someone. "Are you real?" you mouth again, slower now, in an exaggerated manner. She nods, then she mouths, "Are you a furbolg?" You have not heard, or in this case, seen, the word furbolg in a long time, and the fact that she recognizes who you are excites you beyond words. You nod enthusiastically. "What is your name?" you mouth. She scoots up closer and mouths very slowly, "Maya Lee." You point to yourself and say, "Buck." "You speak Sylvan?" You nod. She's smiling at you now. "How old are you?" she asks. It didn't take long at all for her to not be scared of you anymore. She's a funny imaginary friend. "I don't know," you say, shrugging. "Are you from here?" She points at you and then gestures vaguely at this area. You shake your head. "Where is here?" mouths Maya Lee, pointing down at the ground. "This is Mr. Sanos' house." "I know, but where is his house?" "I don't know," you mouth. "Are you from the forest?" Maya Lee raises her arms to make herself look like a tree. You nod. Maya Lee jumps up to her feet in exuberance. "Yes!" she mouths. She grabs your hand. You pull away immediately, this instinctive panic taking over. A pang pulses through your arm from your earlier injury. "No!" She stops. "What's wrong?" "It's not safe," you say. She doesn't seem to understand. She grabs your arms again and tries to pull you up to your feet. "If it's not safe, we can leave. We need to leave," she mouths. "Leave? Where?" You pull away again. What is she talking about? How can you leave when Mama is supposed to be the one to pick you up? "Home, the forest." "But Mr. Sanos said Mama is coming very soon. If you leave now, then she won't know where you went. She'll get lost and she could die." You shake your head. "No." Your voice is no longer silent. You hear your refusal echo against the walls. Your breathing is heavy. The door upstairs creaks open. Mr. Sanos' footsteps bang loudly on the way down. Maya Lee looks back at you, her eyes wide with fear. "Don't tell him I was here," she whispers. You hear her voice for the first time, raspy, shaky, and high-pitched. "Please don't tell him." You can hear Mr. Sanos' footsteps approaching the door. She dashes to the hole in your favorite corner. She crouches down, peeking through the opening. Then she whispers something, causing the fog you saw earlier to reappear. In an instant, she's gone. From the other side of the wall, you hear, "Pretend I was never here, okay? Please." "Okay," you say. The door opens, and Mr. Sanos steps into your room, smiling down at you. The crease in his forehead is still there, the fury in his eyes. "Oh, Buck," he says in a surprisingly cooing voice. "Look at you. Look what you've done to yourself. You are a mess." He squats down next to you, caressing your face, and you wish to shrink away. He drops his knapsack onto the ground and pulls out some bread, cheese, and milk. You must be starving, my boy. Your stomach is growling. It's still aching. Your mouth begins to water. Thank you, you mutter. Of course. Mr. Senos squeezes your shoulder a little too hard. You stuff a giant piece of bread in your mouth. There is a pleasant crunch from the flaky crust before you reach the soft, warm center. The cheese is savory with the little bits of the crunchy salt crystals that you love. I miss Mama's magic berries, but this is good too, you say. Why would you miss her magic berries when you just had them today? I did. Of course, you forgetful boy. You even told me how delicious they were. He takes out something else in his bag, a jar with a gooey paste inside. Now, before you continue eating, show me your arms. But it's hurt, you say. Yes, I know, and I want to heal the wounds, stupid boy. Oh, okay. Thank you. You put your arms out. The blood has hardened by now, but it still stings. You poor thing, says Mr. Senos. He dips his finger into the jar, taking out some of the cream. Look at you, still struggling to control yourself. The ointment smells flowery and sweet. He rubs it against your cut. The wound grows hot for a moment before dissipating. Then he takes out a bottle filled with a familiar red liquid inside. Drink this. You nod and accept the bottle, chugging the tasteless liquid. You've forgotten how thirsty you are. Soon, the aching in your belly also goes away. Mr. Senos flicks his wrist, chanting under his breath in a different language. Your arms glow for a moment, and the dried blood vanishes. You look good as new now, he says, patting your head. Thank you. And you continue to eat. Within a few bites, you finish the food, and you pick at the crumbs on your clothes. Was it good? His eyes are no longer as intense as earlier. It seems that healing and feeding you makes him happier. He's a very generous person. You nod. Yes. Good boy. Mr. Senos sits up on his knees. Now then, are you ready for your blessing? Oh, you nod. Okay. Remember not to resist. Okay. You curl up into a ball, hugging your knees and tilting your head forward. Mr. Senos begins to mutter under his breath, just like he does every night. You close your eyes, and everything goes black. When you wake up, Mr. Senos is already gone. It's silent again. Today was a good day. You and Mr. Senos had one of the best training sessions yet. In the beginning, you had gotten upset and frustrated at your inability to fight back against the mountain lions, and it resulted in you badly hurting your arm. But thanks to Mr. Senos' encouragement, you were able to overcome and perform even better than before. Afterward, as a reward for your impressive efforts, he gave you Mama's magic berries for lunch. They tasted just as sweet and ripe as you remember them. Before he left for work, he told you that Mama would be coming back very, very soon. But even better than Mama's magic berries, you met someone today. Someone new. Mr. Senos told you many times before that no one else lives in this house, but you met a little girl named Maya Lee. You glance at the wall and spot the tiny hole she appeared out of. It's still there. Perhaps she's not just an imaginary being. Maybe you'll see her again. This new friend.